So first, want to welcome the audience. This is Jonathan Wiseman with podcastmarketing.com, and the show is Houston Entrepreneurs. Today we have Avant Media Institute with us, and we are going to introduce them now. I've got Louis Restrepo, and I've got Ryan. Ryan, pronounce your last name for me.
Klonek.
Yes, wanted to make sure I get it right. I know I wrote it down wrong, so I know you're over there looking at it laughing. So I appreciate y'all coming on today. What I want to do is talk about Avant, let you tell us about it, but more importantly, how you got into it, how it got started, and go from there with our audience so that we can, explain the entrepreneurship behind building the business and then highlight the company itself.
Absolutely.
Which we were just talking about.
Absolutely.
So let's go ahead and start by telling me about the company Avant, when it started, how long ago it started, and what that process was, or how the idea came about. What made you start the business?
Well, I've been in education for going on 15 years this year on the business side. So I kind of started with the after school perspective, to where we help enrich kids after school, provided them with activities that they couldn't afford, or maybe in their area was going to be difficult for them. So we came in and provided a wide variety of enrichment activities, and one of the enrichment activities outside of the sports, martial arts, fitness, all the cool stuff that we provided was an audio program where we taught middle school, elementary schools how to make beats from scratch, and do some basic recording to kind of get that idea on how that works. And then years later, I got approached from a friend of mine that I've known close to 20 years now, and he actually was teaching at a school similar to ours, and basically just said, what, Ryan, there's a big need for a quality program here in Houston. I mean, sure. We all know Houston's huge,
Yeah, definitely.
We got everything here, and why not have a great engineering program that can focus on audio or in media in general. So we just started talking, man, and honestly, just like how every other conversation goes, is yeah, that sounds great, but you're talking about really open up a college at the end of the day. I mean, that's just not the easiest thing to do, So he said, look, man, I mean, this guy's got, great credits working with the likes of John Legend and some other big artists. And basically at the end of the day, put together kind of a flow chart of how it would work, and I think all of our entrepreneurs know that a dream is one thing, but to put it on paper is completely different. You can have this great idea, but does that translate to dollars and cents? I mean, we all don't know until the time comes, but did some research, and being in education, we all kind of drew back from what our experience were in college. We said, okay, let's throw all that in a hat. Threw it in a hat. His was outside of spending 60 to 80 grand ish on school, and having these 100 plus people in an auditorium style classroom to learn hands-on engineering wasn't the best thing for him. And
so your partner started as an educator?
He actually is an engineer who was just teaching at another school.
Okay.
And so when we talked about this, it was more so in the idea of that I reapproached him with it and said, you've mentioned this kind of in passing, you know what I mean? Every small conversation could lead to something bigger, right?
Sure.
So his passing conversation was very simple, man, you've been doing this for so long. Imagine if you open up a school.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So that's kind of how that idea kind of sparks.
Gotcha. So just to be clear and for the audience, he was a producer or engineer.
Correct.
Educating at a different school at the time.
Correct.
And what were you doing at that time?
I was just involved in my after school program, strictly doing that.
So still in the educational field, but
Correct.
You were offering after school facilities, location, different programs
Correct.
for kids. Was it related to music at that time, or was it just after school program?
Mainly just after school. And like I said earlier, we did have a little audio class that we offered. And, I thought it was great to have kids be able to do this. But, our after school program, just to touch base on that slightly, I mean, we offer 50 to 60 different types of programs, and we're in 8 to 9 districts here in Houston.
And what age group is that for?
K through 12.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So to be able to kind of say, hey, now we want to do something for 18 plus, is similar but different. Provide something that people can afford, or provide something that most people can't afford. And then in addition to that, let's say why not make it a little bit different? So yeah, he kind of he had to write the curriculum because I'm not an engineer, so I can't write the curriculum, But the business side of it is what I've been doing for so long, and the creativity, the mindset, the design work, like that kind of stuff. It was just kind of like let's put it together and see what can happen.
Yeah. And to take a step back, and I know this is about Avant today, but the after school program that we were just talking about is a business that you actually own, that you've developed over the years, that is currently in existence, going on, which is K through 12.
K through 12, yeah.
And it's after school programs for Houston all around in all districts.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's called After School to Achieve.
After School to Achieve. That was going to be my next question. So that is called After School to Achieve.
Yes.
And we'll discuss that on another show because I want this to be about Avant. But to have the credentials to know the education system, I think it's important for the audience to know that you've been running that. And how many years has that been in business?
It started in 2004.
Okay.
Yeah. So this school year would be the 15th year in existence. So
really cool. Well, congratulations.
It's awesome,
on
man.
that.
I appreciate it, man. And I think I've employed in the Houston area over 3,000 plus people at some point in my life. And I met someone the other day that at some point worked for us, so it's cool. Like, And
how old are you?
37.
Cool.
Yeah, man. So I started it at a young
age.
Yeah, at a young age, man.
Cool. Well, congratulations on 15
that.
years, and congratulations on Avant.
Yeah, definitely.
So you coming from the after school program, and then him coming from the engineering and teaching in a different location or for other schools, y'all decided to put your heads together to develop this curriculum, this class, or this, I guess it's a college, actually.
Man, yeah. You ever seen the movie Accepted?
No.
For the guys that have seen it, man, it's just like, one day, just open up a college and see what happens. And, it's funny to go back and say that now. But it's we had our first doors open up November 2014, and it's been we're going on 5 years now, and it's been a great journey. But most importantly, the idea was we have to prove to the state that we can do this. So my educational background, my business background is what we put on paper, along with his and one other person that had the solidification to say this group can manage and operate a technical college here in Houston. So it is a lot harder than I thought it was. I think we all can, tomorrow, you and I, man, we can open up a coffee shop tomorrow if we want to. Yeah. And I guarantee you it'd be a whole lot smoother than this because you don't got somebody trying to shut you down. And unfortunately, with things that are involved with government and state, it's not that they're trying to shut you down, but they're trying to protect, everybody involved. Yeah.
And education's very important. Yeah. So I don't know the business, so I'm not going to speak on that, but I can imagine when, as a parent, your kids go to high school for 12 years, or not high school, but school for 12. You hope they don't go to high school for 12 years. They go to school for, K through 12, and then when they get out, you want to put them into a legit program. And if this is going to be a program that has a tuition and people pay money for it, especially if they're going to be getting grants or scholarships or what have you, and we'll get into that in a little bit, you want to make sure that they're going to a legit program and a legit school.
Right, absolutely. And that's what they protect, because obviously, you've heard it, we've all heard it, that schools like that, open up and shut down, or they're not providing a good education, or they charge a bunch of money and before you know it, they're gone. So it's just the way that it is, and that's why it's so strict in the beginning. You have from 2014, 2015, we were watched like crazy. It's like we opened up with a temporary, not a temporary status, but preliminary status for that first year.
Well, you're on probation.
On probation, basically, yeah. So if anything goes wrong, or we get a student complaint, or whatever the case may be, it's like they're watching us.
It's going to be scrutinized.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and let's talk about that. So in 14 is when you got started.
Right.
And y'all had the idea come together. What actually made you say, all right, let's pull the trigger and do this? Where did the funding come from? And what type of budget did you start with to make this happen? And where did you get that funding from?
Yeah, definitely. So I was at that point, I was in a good state of my after school company. We've done well. We moved into a big office, and we just kind of put our heads together and say, hey, look, what is this really going to cost us? How is this going to work? And is it probable? You know what I mean? And all the main things you would ask in a business meeting. So at that time, I definitely had some good savings saved up, and that's where the good money came from. I also did a fundraising, and I raised some funds, and we put the money together and started construction. That part was a little bit tricky, dealing with construction, dealing with the build out, dealing with state. There was a lot of things that I wasn't quite sure or was new to. So, for example, after we built the walls, we had somebody come, from the city and and inspect everything, and they said that there was a quote unquote below us. They considered it a garage, but it's not a garage. So we had to have certain kind of walls. They have
certain
to have
types of reinforcement.
Yeah, what's the reinforcement on that, man, that you have to have in those walls? If there's like a garage enforcement, you have to have like some metal, or the rods have to be certain pieces apart. Do you know?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about fireproofing, it may be in regards to the fireproofing or some kind of protection.
And it's the same thing. My brother's in construction, so when you have a second story, you have to have a certain amount of infrastructure to keep whatever's up there from falling through on people's heads.
Exactly. So then, I'm like so excited. We've got these guys done, and the guy comes in, man. He just says, "Oh, this isn't the right walls, or I need to check them."
Retention wall or whatever.
Yeah.
It is.
So what does he do? He cuts a hole like 2 inches by 2 inches all the way across on all my walls after they've been done, painted, and just to double check. And I was like, "Are you serious? Like, this is how it's gonna work, man?" I was like, I didn't know it went down like that, and it's just, you gotta get the guys to come back, and they have to retouch it, repaint it, so it was a lot.
A learning process.
Process, man.
Yeah, because typically you'd get that approval before you put the sheetrock over those studs.
Yeah. Exactly. But then it's funny because when I asked the guy, he said, "No, it's not a
typical.
It's not a garage. It's like a storage or something like that." I forgot what's underneath us, but it just went back and forth, man, like that. And then, getting the fire marshal to come out there, and then we literally had to move a trash can. I had to move a trash can, and I'm sure y'all know about that. Move a trash can. And he said, "We'll come back next time and make sure that it's moved."
Are you talking about a little trash can in the
it was a trash can, but we're not talking about a dumpster. We're talking about like a legit trash can that was in a place where there was a quote unquote in a fire walkway or something like that. So I had to move that, and then I had to take pictures of, just like over and over again. So it was just like,
it sounds like he had a bad inspector.
Yeah, they can be assholes sometimes.
Man, it was rough. It was rough.
Owning nightclubs for many years and building them, the stuff that you would deal with from the fire marshals, from the inspectors, and that's one thing in business that's important to point out is, you're dealing with local inspectors. Mm-hmm. You piss them off, they're going to make it as hard as possible for you to get approved in anything.
Right.
And in the club business specifically is we would deal with, fire marshals, for example. You might have one club, it gets approved, you're partying 6 months into the project, the fire marshals come in, you're overcrowded, you tell them to go fuck themselves, and then a year later, you go open up a new location down the road. That same guy, he remembers it.
Yeah.
And he will make your life miserable. So that's one thing that I definitely recommend to people getting into this. Just kiss people's asses, because if you're a dick, they're going to make life 10 times harder for you.
Being in business for a while myself, one of the things that I've learned, and I learned this real early, careful the feet you step on today, because they may be connected to that ass you got to kiss tomorrow.
You ain't lying.
Man,
how many times has that happened to you?
Thank God that the certain things I learned trial by fire early on in life. So, when you learn that, in my nature in general, I don't care. I treat everybody the same. Sure. I don't care if it is the door guy or the guy writing the check. I treat everybody the same regardless. But it definitely is something that you have to be cognizant of. But that's something you've learned from years of doing this and experience, or is this something you just started doing from the beginning? No, I think that's part of my nature. I think that's just who I am. I think I've always I feel like I can learn something from everybody. I don't care who you are. And so I always approach a relationship and when I say relationship, whether it's a 5-second relationship or a 5-year relationship, I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to figure out what can I learn from this person and take away from that interaction. And so I don't see a reason to treat somebody, but that albeit, everybody wakes up on the wrong side of the bed sometimes, and everybody has that bad day.
Sure.
And so I definitely have experienced it for sure. I mean, I'm not immune to that. I've experienced treating the wrong guy the wrong way, and then not too far down the road, that boomerang comes back and
get your ass
right in the back of the head.
Yeah, I know.
I forgot I threw that boomerang. Bam!
I think we've all dealt with that many a times.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate the information. So I want to take a step back to, you were talking about the location, getting in there and building it out.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that location just so the audience can get a grasp of it? Is this a building that you purchased? Are you in an office building with other businesses? What type of location is it?
So let's go back to the very beginning, right? So if from the entrepreneur side, you want to look at a lot of things, right? I know going in and possibly buying something would be ideal in case it doesn't work out. You can flip the land or whatever the case may be. You know, it's always a good thing. Or if we're going to rent something, you know, how much money we're going to spend for the build out, and do we see ourselves there for a long period of time?
Are you going to get a return on that build out?
Exactly, because the way that I want to do it, you know, is going to be nice. It's going to be, maybe there's a difference between expensive and then there's nice. I mean, you can buy a $10,000 couch that someone else looks like and says, you know, it looks like old and ugly, you know, or you could spend $50 on the same couch and restore it, and all of a sudden people think it's the best thing ever, you know. So
vintage.
Yeah. So you know, my idea is like, it's got to be nice. I mean, we can't overspend. We were on a tighter budget just because, you know, going back and if I had to redo it again, I would have definitely recalculated a couple of things. Definitely the build out was one of them. Some unexpected stuff that we had to pay for. Let's
get into that in the lease. What is the location?
So right now,
is it an office building or multi-use?
It's an office building, yeah. So it's an office building that, it was cool, man. It was 2 offices that we decided to make into one on the bottom floor. One of the reasons why we chose this, there used to be a radio station that's used to go out of there, like back in the day, like in the 90s or 80s or something like that. And then next to it was a place where they had like video shoots. There was like this huge green screen wall and stuff like that. So you have to see the vision, you know, and I was like, man, this would be cool because it's got kind of like that already. At one point did similar to what we're doing. So we literally put the recording booth where they shot the old radio station out of. And that was kind of the idea. And we're like, okay, we can go in this area, 45 and Beltway 8, so like near the Greens Point area. Biggest reason for location, number one is obviously cost. It was a good location that we can get for affordable. But more importantly, we were trying not to go too far away from downtown and put us in a good position between 45 North, where the Woodlands, Humble, Spring. So we chose that because right there you got Beltway 8, so you got the 290 area. People can swing by from the Humble, get on 59 and hop there. So it was a good location, that scenario. And then we decided to go with the lease.
Let me do this real quick because we're getting kind of into details. Let's take a step and tell people what Avant is.
Okay.
So that way I understand what you're saying when you're talking about the studio and audio.
Yeah.
But we haven't even got there yet. So Avant Media Institute, what is it and what services do you provide exactly? And then we'll go ahead and jump back into the business side of things.
No, cool. So going back in Avant, man, like, you know, when I said earlier about audio engineering is a trade, and focusing on real world audio scenarios to where you can be a sound engineer, a recording engineer. You can work for radio stations, TV stations. You can record bands, or you can record people live on stage. So there are schools that offer specifically media-related programs like audio engineering, and you can go on there and, you know, learn your trade. So our idea is to have the New Age, New World philosophy, which is basically an accelerated advanced program. So we're going to cut out all the fluff, you know, no classes like math, science, reading, you know, all that kind of stuff. So if accepted into our program, you'll dive, you know, right into the audio in week 1, basically day 1. So 44-week accelerated advanced program. There's 5 courses within the course in order to graduate. And our biggest selling point is New Age, no fluff, and 12-to-1 student-teacher ratio. So you're not going to have more than 12 in your class learning from actual audio professionals. I can't stress that enough. Like, these dudes' credits are like insane. Yeah,
it's people that are actually in the business here in Houston.
Correct.
That do this as a job, and them teaching curriculum at your location, at your college,
right,
is something that they do secondary to their main job, which is in the business.
Right.
And I think it's important to point out, my son's into music, and I'm sure a lot of people's kids are. It's not just a producer. It's not just recording in a music booth. It's not just creating music, whether that's country music or hip hop music. It's not just about the music. There's so much more to audio engineering that is available to your students.
Right.
And I think it's important to point that out, or maybe give some examples a little bit more in detail of types of audio engineering, so that the audience, so moms or so the kids out there hear this, that they know or can see the potential, maybe, if they're not wanting to go through the typical means of education.
Yeah, no, definitely. So what is an audio engineer? That's like the biggest question, right? So if you were to come in with your son, I would say, what's the goal for your son? Oh, he wants to be a producer. Great. What else? Oh, he wants to record artists. Great. But did you know there's way more that we offer at our program, or an engineer can offer, just in recording in the studio, or recording with artists, or basically just sitting there making beats behind a board all day, right? There's way more to that. And we have students, that have done more so than just work in a studio, but they're working in oil and gas. Like, what do you mean they work in oil and gas? Yeah, they literally work.
So give us an example of how that looks.
So let's just say you got a meeting with somebody in Dubai. Well, who set up your audio for that
conference call?
For the conference call, thank you. It's got to be set up before like the executives walk in.
Yeah,
so these guys are the first ones there. Yeah,
sure. You don't want a top CEO about to go jump on a conference call with video and audio set up and then it not work.
Exactly. So those guys are there at like 5:30 in the morning. They're setting up, and then at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. whenever these calls are coming in, all the audio is set up, the video is set up, the mic, everything is done. And so there is AV type work that are just way far and beyond than just recording in the studio. I have a graduate that's working in a hospital. You think, how's he working in a hospital? Like, what is he doing?
Yeah, give us how that plays out.
We got an emergency in room 404. Somebody's got to call somebody, and then somebody's got to make sure that recording gets to wherever it needs to get, and that person's basically running the sound for all in exchange, all the audio. Because obviously, if you guys all know, in our cell phones, there's no service. When you guys are in the hospital, it's like hard to get service.
Sure.
So these guys have to be in communication with each other. And he runs in 4 cities. He's a lead engineer for 4 cities for a chain of hospitals, and he's running the audio for all that. So it's a little bit more so than just recording inside a studio.
Sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
No, and I love it and you think about, from a business standpoint, especially in hospitals, not only does the communication need to be there, and obviously clearly in emergency type situations,
Right.
but I would think for liability, they want to have all those calls recorded and
For
then
sure.
downloaded to servers where
Yeah.
you can retrieve them,
Right.
if something comes up. So somebody has to do that tech work.
Exactly. You say, like, there's we call it a forensic engineer. You're like, what the heck is a forensic engineer? Well, these are law enforcement that's got to get somebody recorded on something they shouldn't be saying. Somebody's got to go and they got to get that sounding right for court, right? So, I mean, it's just, there's a whole lot more than just, sitting in the studio and I tell that to students that walk in, and I tell parents that, and I tell students that, look, if you're coming here because you want to make beats all day, now, don't get me wrong, you could be the next Dr. Dre, but Dr. Dre started he was also an engineer. But if you just want to strictly focus on producing, this isn't the school for you, because we're going to make you an actual engineer, and you're going to be a well-rounded engineer. And I say engineer before I say audio engineer, because you're an engineer and you're an engineer of audio. It's just how it is.
Yeah. And then you can apply that to any different position that you want to.
Absolutely. And you take that where you want to take it. Now, don't get me wrong. We do have students that's all they want to do is be a producer, but they look at it and say, like, I can go to school here and learn how to be a producer, learn how to be an engineer, and improve my craft. Then when I leave here, if I decide to do it, then great. If I don't,
if they realize producing isn't it for them,
they have another trade.
They have other avenues to go down.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow,
So
it's
it's cool, man.
So how long does a education last? Is it a year long? How long?
It's 1 year, little under 1 year. So our next starting date is September 23rd. So for those students that are enrolling for September 23rd class, we have mornings and evenings. So whatever class that you choose, if you get started September, you'll be graduated September 2020. And that's pretty much how that would work out.
And then once you have those credentials, you're also placing your graduates into different job positions?
Yeah, our name and brand right now it's pretty good, it's strong. Good. So it's cool. So we're getting calls from different job opportunities, and sometimes, to be honest with you, like our employment rate is so high that I don't have jobs sometimes, our students to place with some of these jobs that are coming in. As we grow, I'll hopefully, be able to say, hey, I got 10 possible people to apply for this one position. But it's cool because they're out there kicking butt, and the ones that are working have great jobs. I had one, gentleman come in. I think when he started, he was 38, 39 years old. Said he had a specific job that he wanted to do, and that was to work a live venue at a big pavilion here in Houston, and they told him that he doesn't have the education. Go get the education, you can go apply for the job. He had one goal in mind. He didn't want to record in the studio. He didn't want to make beats. He didn't want none of that. But he was like, I'm gonna take this serious because this is the job that I want to get. Came in, never missed a day of class. And literally was our only perfect attendance person we've ever had, which I think it was already hard. I was jokingly saying it's impossible, but he made it possible. Never missed a day of class for 44 straight weeks. And our classes are 3.5 hours long, 3 days per week. So imagine that time and effort that he had to put in. Not only did he have the highest grade, he had one of the highest GPAs that we've ever had. Leaving, few months later, gets offered the job that he's been waiting for. And just like that, boom. And believe it or not, he's recording a country singer too.
I love it.
Just on the side. And I was like, okay, yeah, you didn't think you would learn how to do that,
Something he said he didn't want to do.
Exactly. And he's recording a buddy of his.
Great.
Yeah, that's doing an album, and it's cool, man. So,
that's really cool. And it shows how it spreads out amongst other industries or other opportunities as far as business goes.
Correct. I mean, having obviously the bulk of our students are 21 to 24 age. And being able to give them something that, like you said, if they come in with that mindset of, I do want to record in the studio, I do want to do beats, that's great. But you always have something to fall back on.
I love it. I do, because it's, I feel that the educational system is antiquated all the way K through 12, as well as the educational process after. Yeah. So I love what you're doing, where it's hands-on, it's real-time, it's realistic, and it's going to help people learn a trait, learn some skills, and then truly be able to apply those afterwards in a real world situation.
Yeah, and some of our guys, they don't really know what they want to do until they graduate. We have one of our partners here, Johnny Black with Johnny Black Productions.
What's up, Johnny?
Johnny, you want to come in, man? You want to hop in, man? I said, man, I got this dude, man. I think you'll like him because
we're going to put him next to you.
From the entrepreneur standpoint, I said, so Johnny's a DJ. I said, look, man, do you really need to be carrying that big ass equipment around? And that's just straight up. Like I had a real talk with him. I said, why don't you hire somebody, man? Like you're the owner of the company. If they want to hire you to do the gig, wouldn't you want to have somebody set that up for you? And we got to talking, and basically I sent one of my guys over there, and he set up the audio for Johnny. I don't think that was the idea going in, but it just kind of goes to shows that you don't know what kind of audio help you need until you need it. And I think it's kind of cool that some of our guys are out there just working with different type of industries. And Johnny, man, like with Jesse, man, how's he doing?
Can you hear us okay?
I hear you guys perfectly.
Yeah,
right, cool.
how's Jesse doing for you, man?
Are we allowed to cuss or no cussing?
Yeah, we can cuss. Just get close to the microphone.
Yeah, he's a fucking badass, man. Game changer. Yeah, like he's awesome. And like he was saying, we had that talk, man, where it was like I would always complain, like Mondays, dude, like I'm freaking hurting, man. He's like, well, why? I'm like, well, I work, I DJ'd Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and he's like, well, like you're still carrying and setting up all your shit. I'm like, yeah, I kind of am. He's like, no. I'm gonna set you up with a couple guys, interview them, try them out, and see who's who. And Jesse was, I think the first one, and really the only one. After that, I was like, okay, that's the one. And then since then, man, like he freaking kills it. And it's one of those things where like it's you kind of got to get used to kind of what each other kind of likes, right? So sure. The first couple times I'm like, hey, you know what? For instance, I like my stuff to be set up this way, and I want a monitor here, and I'm half deaf, so I want my monitor screaming, and I want my mic this way or that way, but now he literally gets in there 2-3 hours before I start. I show up like 20 minutes before it's game time. Check 1 2, we're good. Do my show at the end of the night. Take my headphones off. I bounce, and he's awesome.
That's dope.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Real cool.
And time is money, man. You
It
know,
is.
and it's just a advice I would give for any entrepreneur, right? You got your own business. If you could take if for in this example, it doesn't even matter what, but if you could pull 2 hours, right, of your time to focus on growing your business versus to be carrying and lugging around equipment or doing something that you shouldn't be doing, you're going to end up making more money for the cost that's going to cost you to pay somebody to do this work for you. And that is my advice for him and for all entrepreneurs. Like, look, for those 2 hours, I guarantee you, if Johnny walks in at 5:30, his show's at 7:30, he's got someone else setting up, and he can shake hands for 2 hours, how much more money is he going to make? Then,
Absolutely.
you know, and that's just what that is. And that's something that I've been learning, and that's something that I would entertain or, you know, express to other entrepreneurs. Sometimes it costs more upfront to pay somebody $10-15 an hour, but you're gonna make more money on the back end because your time is now where it needs to be.
Yeah, I believe real big on do what you're good at,
Mm-hmm.
and hire people to do the things that you suck at, or that you don't want to do, or that are going to take time away from you doing what you're good at.
Right. And make a long story short with that, man, I think it's been great. Our guys are out there, you know, doing a great job, and I just kind of proud of where we've accomplished.
I
in the
love
first
it, bro.
5 years, man.
It's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah,
You've done a
appreciate it,
fucking
man.
amazing job
Yeah,
at it.
thank you, bro.
So I want to jump over to the business side of things and the startup side of things. We were talking about the location earlier. You're in an office building. We're
Right.
talking about some headaches with the fucking inspectors and
Man,
stuff like
cutting
that.
holes and shit, yeah.
So let's go ahead and talk about as far as startup expenses. When you got into that location, what was the square footage? What was your budget for build out? Did you get tenant improvement? And for those that don't know what TI is, that's when the landlord will actually give you money per square foot to build out your location. Did they give you any rent abatement? Which means to the audience is they don't, you know, you can get into a location and say, okay, look, we're going to get in there, we're going to build it out, we're going to make it badass, but go ahead and give me a couple free months of rent to give me time to get in there and get situated. So rent abatement is one of the big things you always want to look at when you get into a location. TI is the other big thing where the landlord will give you money to help you build your place out. Maybe it's something as simple as paint the place, replace the floors. But that can run anywhere from $5 a square foot, and I've seen as high as $40 a square foot.
Yeah.
When I first got into business, I didn't know about these two things.
Right.
And I was in the nightclub business when I was younger, and the first 2 or 3 locations that we built, we never even knew to ask for rent abatement or ask for TI money, tenant allowance. So did you, when you started this venture, were you aware of that? Did you get any?
Well, let's go back on remember I said earlier, you know, I'm 31, 32 years old, and I'm going to start a college. Okay, let me rephrase that again. An actual, like,
Yeah,
repeat
that one more time.
It's an actual legitimate college that's accredited by the state of Texas that sees actual engineers and engineers of audio, right? So
I mean, that just goes to show you got fucking dreams. Chase them. Do it. You've got an idea. It takes balls. Throw them on the table and do it. This dude at 31 years old started a Texas college.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy, man. And so with that, I had my own, you know, I'm conservative, and, you know, and I'm conservative in a way. So I was like, man, I don't know. Like, it seems we could do it. Confident and conservative are two different things. You know, I'm confident, I could get done. Conservative is that doesn't mean I'm going to go and
cost
sign
effective.
sign a 10-year note and something stupid and put ourselves in a bad position. So I said, you know what, let me negotiate this lease to the best of my ability, because you know what, I hold the power here. They want me. So let me see what I could do. So my first initial negotiation, they want us for a 3-year, 5-year, this, that, and the other. They'll pay for some tenant improvements they wanted us. I said, you know what? No, I'm not going to do it. I just felt at the time it wasn't the right move for us to be locked in. So what I told him, I was like, I want the shortest deal possible. And they're like, well, what do you mean the shortest deal? I said, I don't know, man. What if it doesn't work out?
Yeah,
you know, that's just what I'm thinking. Yeah, what if it doesn't work out? So I said, I don't want a 3-year. I want a 1 year. They said, a 1 year? I said, yeah. And I want 6 months free.
Wow.
That's what I started. That's what I led with.
Hey.
Yes. Why
good.
not? Right. You know, like
Can't hurt to ask.
I just began my negotiation strategies on this. I had the contractors was still new to me. It's still new to me now. That's just not what I do. Right. But this part I know I can negotiate because I know what position we're in. So anyways, we settled at, a 1 year, so I can get the hell out of there if it doesn't work out, and I'm not trapped in this space, right? And
did they give you the 6 months free?
Yeah, that's the question right there.
They gave me 3 months free.
There you
on
go.
a 1 year. So I mean, I was only locked in for 9 months. Yeah, man.
Hey, that's pretty damn good.
And I told them that after that I'll
renegotiate or
yeah,
consider.
and then if I want a clause, I want first right refusal on the entire. I literally asked for first right refusal on every space that touched our space within this 1 year plus on the option, just in case the thing gets out of control. I need to grow.
Cool. And just so for the audience, options. When you do options and leases, you can ask for the option to get more space that is around the existing space, or if you want to get additional once your lease term is up, whether that's 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, which are really 3 year and 5 year typical in business. You want the option to renew that space before they just pull it out from underneath you. So at the end of your lease, you want to be able to get out of it if your business is doing shitty.
Right.
But if it's doing good, you want to grow or you continue to do business, you always ask for the option. That way you can sign an additional lease, so you stay in there and you don't have to pick up and move.
Yeah, and not only that, if somebody comes and they want the space next door, I want to be notified before and be able to have the option to take that space in a timely manner.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
So yeah, that's what I signed, man. You know, I just tried to be conservative in that scenario, and I tried to put us in position to see if this was going to be successful or not. Because at the end of the day, when the doors opened up, I still have to convince somebody to pay to go to a college they never heard of.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's like, and they're walking in, they're seeing me, they're like, man, who the hell is this guy? He's like 25 years old. I'm like, no, man. I mean, you know, I had to, you know, there's obviously definitely some hoops and boundaries that I had to cross.
Absolutely, I can imagine.
You know,
so generating that first traffic, getting those first customers.
Right.
How did you do that? How did you get awareness? How did you bring traffic? How did you get business? Because that's your lifeline to pay the bills.
Right. Well, we had a choice to make, and this is a little bit of a different scenario to work out because we're building a brand and a name and a reputation. We're not selling anything necessarily out of the school. So for all of our restaurant, bars, club owners, things like that, you can open up the place on Saturday, pay for everything, and then Saturday night, when you first open up, you're going to get some of your investment back right then and there. Yeah. That's just because your people are buying stuff right then and there. For us, it's a little bit of an opposite effect because, if I get 50 people to like walk into our school, it doesn't necessarily mean all 50 of them are going to actually sign up.
Sure.
And if they do sign up, we're a brand new school. What are they really going to commit to pay engaging that? So we came in under market value for the total cost of the program, which is great, but we had to do one more step and to offset the new, us being brand new. But really what it came down to is just that we did marketing from at the time, and we could preach about how it is the market. I still feel like hand to hand still has some kind of grasp. People don't do it as much as they used to, but we did that 5 years ago. We hired a street team, and they just went around everywhere passing out flyers. Street marketing. Yeah,
it's still very alive. I tell people all the time,
man,
street marketing is alive. Now, direct mail, they might throw your shit away.
Yeah, that's not.
But hand-to-hand marketing, there's a lot of different marketing strategies that are considered old school that are, it's kind of all circling back around.
Yeah, and I think people are now just like, if you just want to speak about Instagram real quick, you flip through the ads faster than ever before, just because there's so much on there. You're just trying to get to whoever the next post is, So we went out that route. Of course, I started interviewing different marketing companies and that kind of stuff. I hired a street team, and I hired a marketing company to do our website and our digital marketing, and that's kind of how we started that part.
And what did you have for a budget for that startup, or the first 6 months of startup, for marketing dollars for your website and for marketing? What was your marketing budget for, let's say, the first 6 months?
Right. So we set aside about $5,000 to $6,000 a month. At the time, we felt like we needed to do that. and so we paid on the more of the I guess the heavier side. We're spending about $6,000 to $7,000 a month on marketing for combined for the street team and the digital marketing. Of course, with a bunch of other bills that you didn't foresee coming in. So we actually still to this day, like, you know, had a huge push that was a little bit unexpected. I didn't think there was this many people were going to come, but they did. And after that, you know, we kind of had to tail off a little bit just because it is, you know, marketing is expensive, man.
It is.
You know, and yeah, even if the students are coming in, it doesn't necessarily mean that they were signing up. So, you know, and maybe we weren't hitting the right people. So I had to kind of regroup with that as well. But
which of those marketing means or platforms did you see give you the biggest return on investment in this niche?
Well, I would say that it was a niche that was
So your niche is education.
correct.
And it's a vocational school. Would
Right.
that be fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Geared towards media or towards audio engineering, or
Right.
as you like to say, engineering audio.
Yeah, exactly.
You did pay-per-click advertise. After you built your website, it was there. And this was 5 years ago, so
Right.
social wasn't quite as popular to most.
Right.
So did you had a street team passing out flyers, hand-to-hand combat. You did probably some pay-per-click campaigning, maybe some local ads, magazine ads, maybe direct mail pieces to college students in dorms or wherever your target market
Right.
was. What were the 3 or 4 things that you did, and what did you see the biggest return on investment from?
Well, I'll say first and foremost, interview your potential marketing companies first. I would say that I probably would have been a little bit more tighter on who we hired for that part. And if you're going to hire somebody from marketing, make sure they have some sort of history with your target audience. You know, I hired somebody, they did a great job on what they did, but I don't think I mean, how do you find somebody who's looking for audio engineering? You know, I still feel like it's kind of hard to find, right? But I would say the biggest was our street team, man. I think they did way better than our digital marketing team. I think our digital marketing team did cool on aesthetics, but our cost per click was way too high for the return that we're getting on it.
Do you remember what it was?
Man, well, it's competitive. So it could be between $5 to $7 a click, you know, up to 15 on certain times.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's
so
actually, you know, that was 5 years ago, but that's cheap.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's cheap, but it also it's
it
expensive
adds
when
up real quick, real
man.
quick.
You know, you get a $2,000 bill in 2 weeks. You're like, what the hell? And
Yeah.
you got no phone calls, or you got one phone call.
Yeah,
or,
and
you
it's
know.
not converting.
Yeah, exactly.
So what did your street team do? They were successful. What did you actually have them do? Was it something they suggested, or did you give them the ideas and say, hey, go do X, Y, and Z?
Man, you know what? We did old school, man. We did old school. Like we're having a party at this bar or club. Come through. You know, it was like go to every coffee shop, every every local business, and let's just pass out flyers and hand it out to people. Set up like little booths at different places. We went to little venues that had like people that were performing, and we said, hey, can we set up a booth here?
Sweet.
And then we did it that way, and that's how, because we didn't know what else to do outside of trying to battle. And when we're trying to battle online, you know, for all of our guys that are paying for Google, we try to battle online. Who are you battling against? You know what I mean? And what kind of pockets do they have? And what can you do differently? So with us, we're battling against schools that,
Have deep pockets.
you know, they've grossed in the billions, I would say, you
Yeah.
know, easily. So it's a little bit different. We can't just spend it all there and not do something that's a little bit different.
Or they're government funded, so it's not using their own dollars anyways.
Exactly. Yeah. So we went about that route and just did it just old school, hand to hand, and we got a good push. And I felt like that push was more so brand awareness more than anything. So I would have to give it to our brand awareness, that we're open. You know what I mean? We're open for business, and hopefully somebody down the line can say, oh, I heard of Avant. And what's Avant? I think they do something with audio. Oh, my kid makes beats, or my friend makes, oh, you should hit them up. And that's how we were able to get some traffic too.
Do you remember your first client? The first person to call and say, hey, I want to sign up for the school.
Man, so the build out, going back on there, took a little bit longer, right? So we're over here having this building with our we couldn't even go in there because it was like they're already behind, right? So we opened up, quote unquote, at a different location. So I had people calling through our like obviously through Ring Central. For you guys that don't know who Ring Central is, I highly highly recommend Ring Central. I've been telling Johnny about Ring Central for a minute. They have no idea that they're not calling your location, you know. So they're calling us on the outside location, and they're calling and say, "Hey, man, I saw your ad. Like, tell me more about it." And we weren't even at an office. We're like, "Oh shit!" Like people are calling now. You know.
So Ring Central is a hosted phone system,
correct,
where you get a ghost number or hosted number, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That then rings to your cell phone, or you can have it forwarded to 20 different numbers and rollovers or however.
Yeah.
But it basically gives you a phone system and a phone number to call that then gets forwarded to you wherever you're at. And did they also have the answering service or the people that will live answer for you as well?
Yeah, we had the answering service. You got the leave the voicemail. You got the text message. You got the, you know, you can give it to whoever you want to have it. So, I mean, you know, shout out to them because they kept us like on the move when we couldn't be in our own building because of construction, you know. So we were able to start booking tours, and I just remember that those calls like coming in like, man, we got to start getting these people in for tour. So then I was like, let me be creative here, and I was like, I gotta tour them because they want to come.
They want to see what they're
what's going on.
For. Sure.
So I just said, you know what? I don't care if they're not ready. We're gonna do like this hard hat scenario. You ever see those? Do you see those hats?
He still has those hard hats.
I still do.
The other day, we're doing some
you
build out now.
You gotta put them on the wall and frame them.
Yeah, man. I said, come on, man. Let's go. So the first day we had like 6 tours of people coming in, and I remember like, man, like nervous, like they're gonna come and check out. We didn't even have our studio built yet, and I think out of the like 6 people, like 2. Like they actually end up registering for that first set of class. And after that, of course, man, you're going to get your like, I don't know, man, this place ain't even built yet.
Yeah, it's a little sketchy.
It's a little sketchy and this, that, and the other. So we probably lost some students that way, but not in a bad way. I mean, it's just like.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I mean, hey, if you want to come, like, it's going to look like this. So we had our renderings. Renderings are huge. You know, we had our renderings out everywhere so that way they can get the vision.
A visual of what it's going to look like and how it's going to function.
And speaking about the state, you know that renderings, we could get shut down if a rendering doesn't match what we could possibly have. So, I mean, it's like strict like that. So I was like, man, I didn't know, like literally we got to follow, you know, so it's just, we had to do it like that and prove to these people that this is what we're going to look like. But it makes sense though. Imagine you taking your son up to our school and us showing you this amazing rendering. Then he shows up to class. He's got like old wood desks with like with splinters on the side. And you're like, man, this wasn't what the rendering said. So I tease Lewis all the time. I was like, look, man, you can't go halfway, man. You got to go all the way. You got to have the nice desk because you can't sell something that's not there, and that's how. You can't cut corners in that way. But, you know, we made our renderings. We matched it the best that we could. You know, maybe the chairs were in the same color in the rendering, but other than that, it still looked like it. I said, this is what it's going to look like. You want to sign up?
Yeah. Was there ever a point that y'all were ready to throw in the towel where you just got scared? You're like, I don't know if this shit's going to make it.
I would say absolutely yes. I think in most businesses, I'm not gonna say every business, you get that nervous, you get that anxiety. I'm there, you know, and I'm in the day to day, and I always feel like, man, maybe it won't work out. Shit, even until today, you know, you never know. But I feel for myself personally, you know, I had to make a decision, and I had to start understanding that I can't do this on my own, and at the same time, there's some things I got to do on my own. And when we first started, I wasn't the day-to-day person. I was more so like pulling the strings and making the calls and doing the tours. Yeah. That was like my main role, is just greeting people and doing tours and showing them the place. But, you know, I wasn't the day-to-day, like there all day person, because I still have my other business, you know. Yeah. And another big shout out to all of our entrepreneurs that have multiple entities. Like, you know, stick to, if you're going to do 2, know that you're going to leave 1 in good hands, or know that you're still going to be able to profit from them while you are not eating for a while this other one, you know. And that's kind of the part I had to make. And I made a decision to say, hey, look, you know, this company's been established, my after school company, now for 10 years. I have a team. They can handle it. If they need me, they can call me, and let me just go ahead and just suck it up and, you know, put my big boy pants on and let's go to work every day. And I have to open. You know, for a while I was opening at 8:30 and closing and being there. 24/7, man, and be on the phones all day. And our, you know, we just started growing, and I just said, if I'm gonna do it my way, and I'm gonna put the effort that I need to do. And I feel like if I'm here every day and I work here every day, it's not gonna fail. But it still made me say I got to start reaching out and start going to my network and start contacting people that that would want to help grow this thing, because I'm going to need help in different aspects, you know?
So at what point was it that you reached, whether it was 6 months or 3 years, that you were finally like, all right, this is going to work?
Right.
You know, looking at the numbers, the P&Ls, the financials to it, it's working, we're making a profit, and I can see the growth trajectories, knowing that you're going to get to where you need to be.
Well, I would say after about a good two plus years, close to more than 3 years. Going back when I said earlier, I said, hey, you want to pay for a college you never heard of? It's not like easy to do, right?
Sure.
I don't even know. You know, Lewis got kids that are in college. You got kids. I don't know if y'all would have paid for it. You know, I don't know if I could have sold it to y'all. I don't know, because it was brand new, and I have to speak to parents, you know, not a lot, but when I do, that's the biggest question. That's the first thing that I got asked, and it made my face, like I did the she's like, so what's gonna prevent you guys from shutting down this year? I'm like, dang, like, hi, nice to meet you, sir. You know, and this guy's like from the Woodlands, he's got his 2 kids there, and he told me straight up, like, yeah, I'm gonna send my kids to college, I'm paying for it. So, you know, he's asking a tough question. I was like, shit, I mean, that's a legitimate, real question I have to deal with every day, because you're right. Like, I don't know if we're going to be, but I'm not going to tell him that, you know? But once I started going through that first graduation class, which, you know, was a year after our first start was, our official start was like in the first quarter 2015. So once 16 hit and that first class graduated, then the next class graduated, like, oh, okay, cool. And then they're getting jobs. They're like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then more people are hearing about it. All right. And then I started being there every day, like, okay. And then before you know it, you know, we're hitting 80 to 90 to 100 leads in one quarter. Like, oh shit, like now people are really trying to go here. And then I'm not going to talk about other schools. Like, you know, education, but I'm gonna let the students talk to me. At this point now, I have received transfers from every school in the area or that does anything audio related. They are coming to Avant, or they've been at Avant, and I've heard the stories. So I'll let them talk, and it's cool because I'm like, man, we have transfers from everywhere. Yeah. And it's awesome, man.
That's amazing.
You know, it's awesome. Like, really, you're leaving that school to come to our school. And I've had people leave universities. Now, I'm not going to tell a parent, hey, how your kid drop out of you know, University of Texas in their junior year and just come to Avant. I'm not going to say that, but if they do that on their own, it's because they're not getting the education that they thought they were getting. Especially
if it's in a niche industry like engineering audio.
Right.
You know, you're specialized in that. They're not going to go take the basic classes and courses and all the bullshit that they don't pay attention to, and then get a half-ass audio engineering program.
Right.
You know, they're coming to you, and that's what they're learning. Like you said, 12 students to a class, hands-on from people that are actually in the industry.
Right.
Not somebody that's making $50,000 a year standing up in front of a chalkboard going all through day. A textbook.
Yeah, all day. They're just up there just preaching, but they're not actually doing anything.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Love it, man. Well, congratulations on your successes. Before we wrap it up, tell me a little bit about what's next for Avant. I know we talked a little bit at the studio. Love the location, the classroom settings. It was dope. And if y'all need to go check something out, highly consider it. Go do a tour of the studio like I did. Y'all will love it. What is next for Avant?
Well, we started our classes. Our night class officially jumped off in September of 2018, and it was a big, you know, change for us because I think we all came and said, "All right, now we're going to be open from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 at night." Like, who's paying for that? Who's going to pay for that person, you know, to be there? So now we have night classes, you know, and we decided to go with it, and let's see what happens. We did night class in September. January came, said, should we try it again? Sure, why not? Boom, January comes. We filled out both morning and night again. April comes around, and we're like, do we really want to try it again? We don't have the space, and this is where the build-out scenario, and this is where, you know, another negotiation tactic came into play that we'll have to talk about another day, but these guys are very familiar with. And mentally, I told myself 2 years ago, that wouldn't it be crazy if we would have 4 night classes and 4 morning classes on a daily basis, which is 8 running classes. Keep in mind that in that first quarter of 2018, we had a class of like 8 people, you know, that's like crazy. That's it.
That's crazy.
And so mentally I said, you know, we're going to get there. And I feel like I put that out there in the universe to know that this is coming, and we just got to make the right decisions to get it there. So just now, our last April class, we had the highest. We filled out both classes. We had a waiting list running into July, and then July we officially opened up and extended our school. So what's coming next is for September 2019, our school will have an additional 3,500 square feet. We're going to have 2 fully functional studios that are going to be running, student lobby, break room. And for January 2020, it's crazy to say that, with the right construction team, Lewis, we'll have our 3rd studio. And in our 3rd studio will be industry like full board, digital and analog, and so now running into 2020, man, we'll have an additional 3,500 square feet on top of our 5,000 square feet, and then we'll have 3 functioning studios and 8 running classes on a day-to-day basis, man.
So you got it mapped out for the next year.
Yeah, after that, we'll see, man. Maybe we'll get with the Wiseman Group and see what's up with our Sugar Land location, right?
Yes, there you go. Yeah, won't tell anybody. We talked about interns coming into the studio.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah,
definitely.
we'll capture that on another one.
Yeah,
well, I appreciate you coming out. I really appreciate you sharing your story of Avant with the audience. Amazing things that you're doing. Badass entrepreneurs. All 3 of y'all are. I know 2 of y'all very well. Johnny, we'll get to catch up a little bit more.
Absolutely.
But if you're on this dude's team, I know you're a fucking badass. So thank you all for being here, sharing your story with everybody out there in Houston. I appreciate it, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
And best of luck to you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Lewis?
Been a long time, bro.
Already, bro.
Thank you, man. Appreciate
Absolutely. And Houston Entrepreneur Podcast. Appreciate y'all following along. Check out Avant Institute. Some dope shit going on. If you got kids, if you yourself want to get in there, audio engineering, that is going to be the place to go. So appreciate it, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care, guys.